And if you do want a bit more education, there is a sale on until tomorrow, end of Q2, end of 30th of June. VTP reduction on the VTP stage 2 swing trading and stage 3 intraday trading. Okay, there's a QR code there or a bit.ly code, or just ping me if you've got questions. And then let's finish with sterling as always. All right, so cable on the weekly, euro sterling on the weekly, pound Aussie, pound Canadian, pound yen, pound Swiss, pound Kiwi, FTSE. So we just looked at the dollar there. The dollar's very clearly in that trend, wasn't it? It's literally dollar strength, okay, and it's beautiful. When you see, the currency against its, major pairs, okay, and it's a very clear trend, as I said. Why would you fight that? Okay, you want to be riding that. Whereas I don't think I can say the same for sterling. It looks a little bit all over the place, doesn't it? So it doesn't, there's nothing really terribly exciting. Okay, and that's probably a reflection of people's overall sentiment and confidence in the UK and sterling at the moment. Certainly, pound against dollar cable. If you look at that for this weekly month, I'd say the last 2 months, okay, has been in a downtrend. We are back down to that kind of 132 area. The daily chart, okay, has been very bearish for June. I'd be interested to see is that kind of starting to run out of steam a little bit. Okay, is there a case of markets when they look at the UK saying things are bad, but they're not as bad as they could have been? All right, and I wonder if we get a little bit of a sterling relief rally. That's why we're seeing sterling up on the stand there. But yeah, nothing terribly pretty there in terms of pound against dollar. Pound against yen, I look at this personally here. Let's just draw these up here. I wonder if this is basically bang. All right, that we're just coiling up there. Excuse my drawing, as I say every week, I'm a better trader than I'm an artist, but you get the gist, I hope, there, okay? Yeah, we remain above the 20 and the 50 on the weekly, okay, but I wonder if we're just coiling up. And as I said, I'm looking at those yen pairs on a few of the other daily charts, all right, and I wonder whether, is this us getting into, what might be looking as like a stage 3, okay, stage 3 analysis of just starting to get ready to roll over. So yeah, watch and shoot on this boy. Pound against Swiss has still continued to, this was the start of the war, all right, and that was the S&P said they were going to manipulate, and they did, and basically sold off Swiss franc. And now where I'm interested is we're above the weekly 50, and we're still holding above the weekly 50. If we go down to the daily chart, what happened is, we pushed up above the 50 and the 200. We came back into that nice kind of bull flag, and it looks like we're putting in another nice bull flag as well. It's kind of grinding its way north there. Okay, that is, as I said, that is more to do with, I think, Swiss franc weakness rather than any particular joy for sterling. Okay, so let's just put that in there. Okay, hopefully you can see that. All right, that's what we look at there. When it comes to the condols, that picture's even messier. All right, not unsurprisingly, CAD has been weak, and so even sterling, which has been messy, has managed to kind of strengthen over the last few weeks. But I wouldn't exactly say that is glorious, glorious price action. Yeah, you might say that daily chart, Paul, has just ground its way higher. But as I said, I think a lot of that is more to do with Canadian weakness than any particular love or joy for the sterling. Aussie, pound against Aussie, I think that is looking like it's turning around there, isn't it? I wonder if we are going to get on the weekly, are we going to get sort of, an inverse head and shoulders there building? Okay, that would be a kind of nice, but certainly having got above that 20 period moving average, yeah, I'll be looking to see, is that what we are building? Let's keep an eye on that, see how that particularly plays out. Pound against New Zealand dollar is just, yeah, New Zealand dollar's weakened considerably. It's down at the bottom of the bucket now. So, and you can see that, as I said, even though sterling's got through those shenanigans, it has still managed to, strengthen considerably against the New Zealand dollar. Right, nothing joyous there. Euro against sterling. Well, kind of interestingly, all right. So, I talked about it being in this kind of descending triangle, this descending wedge, and how on the daily chart, okay, you can see every time we come down to around about 86.20, we bounced. And interestingly, we had this real big sell-off, kind of what was that, sort of last Monday-ish. but we continue to be beneath that kind of zone there. Normally we've bounced off it, but we haven't been able to get back up above it yet. That kind of intrigues me. All right. Is this a case of that we are starting to sort of break into a kind of a lower trend for euro sterling? Is that what we're seeing? Certainly the price action isn't joyous, but that would be my kind of bias at the moment. All right. As long as it stays beneath that, as I said, kind of 86.25, 86.30 and continues to sort of work its way lower, that would be my kind of view on euro sterling today. Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's draw it to a close there. I know we overran a little bit, but it's me just trying to share so much. There's so much going on in the world at the moment. I hope you found that useful. I hope that's given you a little bit of help and a little bit of insight that you can take away into your own trading for this week. And it's an opportunity. Okay, so as always, there'll be a good. Remember, tomorrow is also end of month, but also end of quarter. You've got NFP at the end of the week, so make sure that you're on top of your. Make sure you're on top of your risk management, your order flow, your news flow. It's going to be an interesting one. So, Sentence says, "Hi, Paul. What do you think about Polymarket? Do you trade on it or use it as a sentiment tracking tool?" I think it does have value as a sentiment tracking tool. I have traded prediction markets quite a bit in the past, but I haven't done much of it at the moment. I think anything that helps give you a sense of the sentiment is beneficial. I work on the simple premise that follow the money. All right, that is the follow the money. That's but people have to put their literally where their money where their mouth is. I'm always happier to give that more credence than just nonsense on social media. All right, there you go, traders. Have yourself a great week. Okay, take care of yourselves. Have a great week, and I'll look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care, everybody. Cheers.